An old friend beats up on the Yankees in Mexico, and the Yankees have a fifth starter.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We have a lot to talk about. We have roster moves. DJ's foot still isn't feeling right. The Yankees had a split squad day on Sunday in two different countries. We'll talk about both games. And Carlos Rodón had an interesting start on Saturday. But first, Luis Gil wins the fifth starter job. Aaron Boone announced on Sunday that Luis Gil will be the Yankees' fifth starter, which means your rotation starting for 2024 on Thursday with Nestor Cortes opening in Houston. He will be followed by Carlos Rodón, Marcus Stroman, Clark Schmidt, and Luis Gil. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the Yankees envisioned for their fifth starter, but I'm sure Hal is thrilled that he didn't have to open up his wallet and that he got an option from internally or an internal option to do it. Boone said about Gil, I'm excited about the options that we have. Obviously, you never want to see Garrett go down, but I'm excited about the people that emerged and legitimately put their name in that conversation up until late. I feel like the way Luis is throwing the ball really from the jump, he's certainly earned that with how he's performed. We continue to be really excited about what he can be as a starting pitcher. Gil was actually told about this on Friday after the Mets game. Matt Blake and Brian Cashman let him know the news, and it's not shocking. He was doing really well. The only reason it would be shocking is, maybe you would think that they would stretch him out a little more, but no, they're like, you're in, kiddo, have fun. So in spring, he's thrown 15 and 2/3 innings across 5 games, 3 starts. He allowed 5 runs, which works out to a 2.87 ERA, 7 hits, he walked 6, and he struck out a team-leading 23 batters. And he beat out a few guys for that 5th spot, including Luke Weaver, Cody Petit, and Will Warren. Now, Will Warren showed off for the Yankees, and the Yankees were happy with what they saw. Boone had this to say. I think Will's got a bright future as a starting pitcher in this league. I'm sure there's a great chance you'll see him sooner rather than later, too. And Warren actually went into the game on Friday night against the Mets after Gil finished his 4 innings of work, and Warren pitched 5 innings. So it was just those two guys pitching. He gave up 1 hit on 3 hits, 1 hit on 3 hits, 1 run on 3 hits with 2 walks. The Yankees actually beat the Mets on Friday night. On Saturday, Carlos Rodón pitched against the Phillies. He is your number 2 starter. He went 4 innings, gave up 6 runs, 4 earned on 7 hits with 1 walk and 2 strikeouts. That's not great. It's not great. We're going to get into the pitch breakdown right now. So according to Baseball Savant, he threw 82 pitches, 45 four-seamers, 19 sliders, 13 of those cutters that he's working on, 4 changeups, 1 curve. Now, I also saw that people were mentioning that they believed he was trying to throw or throwing a 2-seamer as well, but Baseball Savant doesn't have that. So I don't know if the cutters are being read as if the 2-seamers are being read as cutters, or I don't know what's happening there. But yeah, so he's upping the cutters and he's up to 82 pitches. So he's built up in time for the season. His velocity was down on Saturday, but not by much. In the spring before this game, his average was 95. He was averaging 94 on Saturday, but he did hit 96.6 as his highest pitch. So it doesn't look great heading into the regular season for Rodón, but he is confident in himself. He's not inspiring confidence in the rest of us, but as long as he's confident, I guess that's okay, right? He said, I feel confident in myself. I felt like I could have thrown more today, so that's a good sign that I had more in the tank. But it's nice to go through a whole spring training and get those up and downs and get that pitch count up. He said he was frustrated with the results. He also added, luckily those don't count, but now they will. So, yeah. I mean, not an inspiring last outing for Carlos Rodón before spring training ends, but the good thing about it, like he said, the fact that he felt like he could pitch more is good, considering how he pitched last season, how he was injured last season, that he's feeling good physically is also good. So maybe he just needs to work it up. And, let's not worry about this now. If he's still pitching like this in May, then we can be worried, but not yet. So Saturday was also a split squad day, and the Yankees also played the Tigers, and they lost that game. They tied the Phillies. They were losing to the Phillies. I think it was 6-2 when I saw it, and they ended up tying it at I think it was in the last inning, so they ended up 6-6. But in the game against Detroit, Cody Petit, who was kind of in the running for the fifth starter, 2 1/3 innings, 8 runs on 8 hits, gave up 2 home runs. Whew, yeah, not great. 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. So that didn't help his case at all. Other pitchers of note, Clayton Beeter threw 4 innings in that game against Detroit. 1 run on 3 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. He did give up a home run, but Clayton Beeter, Will Warren, those are 2 guys you need to look out for. I've spoken about him before. We've spoken about him many times on this show. And as Boone said with Warren, you'll see him sooner rather than later. I kind of feel the same way about Clayton Beeter. I feel like you might see him sooner than later. So we'll see how that goes. A lot of split squad stuff going on, huh? And we'll get into that actually in segment 2 because the Yankees played 2 games in 2 countries on Sunday. And they're going to do the same thing on Monday. We're going to talk about that as well. But first, don't forget to reply to the pinned comment on our videos from Monday through Thursday if you want your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from me and you can text me questions. I feel bad for the insiders. They were getting a flurry of texts on Sunday just because of all the stuff that was happening. But it's not normally like that. We try not to inundate you with text. There's a 14-day free trial, so if you don't like it, you can always end that trial. So coming up next, the Yankees had a split squad day in 2 different countries. How exciting. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. You can bet on the men's tournament and the women's tournament. Now, right now on the men's side, Connecticut is still leading the pack. They're at plus 220 to win it all, with Houston, Purdue, Arizona, and Tennessee now rounding out the men's top 5. I really hope none of you bet on Kentucky this weekend because, woof. Then again, it's the NCAA tournament and crazy things happen. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Welcome back. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day? You have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Yankees, if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm doing quotes. The Yankees lose in, oh dear, lose in Mexico City to the Diablos Rojos 4-3 on Sunday. And I say Yankees in quotations, and I'm not going to do it again because if you weren't watching on YouTube, balloons popped up on my screen. Thank you, Apple. I say Yankees in quotes because they had, how many regulars did they have? 4, 5? So it was just a bunch of kids with Yankee uniforms on from the system. And it's exciting because we got to see some guys that we've spoken about on the show in that game do some things. So that was cool. But let's not act like the Yankees lost to this Mexican team. No offense, but it wasn't really them. Aaron Judge wasn't there. Giancarlo Stanton was there though. And he put a mask on his head in the press conference. If you didn't see that, look for that on Twitter or any other social media. It's pretty funny. So yeah, the Yankees lost 4-3. And why did they lose 4-3? Because 41-year-old Robinson Cano was a triple short of the cycle. He hit a home run and then a double and then a single. Unbelievable. And he's still so smooth when he swings, like I said, he's 41 years old, but he still swings like he's 22, 25, 28-year-old Robinson Cano. He could still hit to the opposite field because the double went to left. The home run, he pulled it to right. Just amazing watching him play. As I said, it was only really Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Volpe, Jose Trevino, Oswaldo Cabrera. I believe they were the only regulars in the lineup. And then after they were taken out, the young kids got to play, and it was great. Jonathan Loaisiga got to play, and he said after the game that this was the first time he was pitching in front of his mother as a Yankee. How fantastic is that? Victor Gonzalez got to pitch in front of the home crowd. It was a really cool experience for a lot of these guys, and you just love to see that. Jarrett Cerna got a base hit. We've talked about him on this show, and he is really tiny. I know Steve explained to us that he was very short, but when he was up there at the plate, he just looked really tiny. But yeah, he got a base hit. It was really cool. But the main star of the show was Robinson Cano. Just amazing. And of course, because of how well Robinson Cano did, people were suggesting that maybe the Yankees go after him and sign him to play third base. Guys, that's not happening. And these were people who were earnestly doing this. This wasn't like joking tweets. These were serious tweets. And some of the beat writers were like, yeah, we were waiting for this to happen. We thought this was going to happen. Yeah, it's not happening. But yeah, no, it was really cool. The fans were, constantly making noise with horns, which I thought was great. Chanting and cheering and just having the best time ever. And I loved it. I thought it was really a lot of fun. They're playing one more game in Mexico. It'll be on the S app tonight, Monday. And it's another split squad day. Now, what happened with the split squad? Let's talk about it. So the Yankees won in Florida. 1-0. Marcus Stroman, number 3 starter, looks really ready for the season. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, did not surrender a run, struck out 5, and walked 2. That's what you want to hear. You want to hear that Marcus Stroman is ready for the season, especially after the hip injury that he had in 2023 that kind of ruined his season, because he was doing really, really well with the Cubs in the first half and before that injury happened. And that's the Marcus Stroman that the Yankees want. It appears that this is the Marcus Stroman that is here right now. And I know it's spring training, but we're a few days away from opening day. This part of spring training is when you're looking at the numbers, because after 6 weeks, this is what you're hoping they're going to go into the regular season with. So I'm very happy about how Marcus Stroman looks right now. So Stroman said about himself, because if you didn't know, Stroman is listed at 5'7", 180 pounds, which for a pitcher is not large at all. He said that he likes to carry himself in the same manner that Hall of Famer Pedro Martinez carried himself. Now, Pedro appeared small when he was pitching because he was only 170 pounds, but he was listed at 5'11", 170. But this is what Stroman said. Watching Pedro being undersized, he was someone I used to watch a lot of video on. His confidence, his demeanor, it's something I always idolized. I'm the most confident out there. I might be the littlest, but I swear I feel like I'm 7 foot throwing 100 miles an hour when I'm out there on the mound, regardless of how my stuff plays. So, hey, we have 2 starters heading into the season confident. You always like to hear that. Now, of course, the results were better for Stroman than they were for Rodón, but what can you do? Brad Ausmus said about Stroman, he's a pitcher. Don't you love when they say stuff like that? He commands both sides of the plate. He's got multiple weapons. He can make the ball move in at least 2, sometimes 2.5 directions. And it's like insert swear word for batters. What swear word would go there? Stroman said, everyone knows I'm going to throw sinkers because he's thrown them. Or no, he threw them 46% of the time in 2023, according to StatCast. He said, I'm starting to flash a really good four-seamer that guys don't have in the scouting report. Now, that's interesting because he only threw the four-seamer 8% of the time last year. So if he does have a four-seamer, because he has a sinker, a splitter, a slurve, a cutter, and a slider, but if he works that four-seam in there to trick people, I have a good feeling about Stroman. Does anyone else feel that way? I really do. I feel like it's going to be the underrated move of the season. You know, the one that people were complaining the most about. Why didn't you go out and get this guy? Why'd you get Stroman? And I feel like Stroman is going to be the one that, I wouldn't say surprises everyone, but I feel like he's going to get the Yankee fans on his side. And I feel like he's going to be good this year. It's going to be fun to watch. So as I said, Monday is another split day, otherwise known as today, because you're watching this on Monday. So the Yankees will be taking on the Mets in Tampa, the ones who stayed behind in Florida, and the guys in Mexico facing the Diablos Rojos again. Clark Schmidt will be making his last start of spring training against the Mets, and Luis Serna, not to be confused with Jared Serna, will make the start in Mexico. So, yeah, a busy last couple of days here for the Yankees. Again, just keep an eye out on Clark Schmidt, see how he does in his last start before opening day, because it's almost opening day. It's Monday, people. Opening day is Thursday. We're getting there. Coming up next, some roster moves. DJ's foot still giving him issues, and I have some more thoughts about Mexico. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewer experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournaments, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On, most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out the Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. So I told you we had more roster moves. So here we go. Cody Poteet, Ron Marinaccio, and Nick Ramirez were optioned to Scranton Wilkes-Barre, or Wilkes-Barre, however you say it, because they say it both ways. Will Warren, I mentioned him in segment 1, reassigned to minor league camp, and Clayton Andrews was also optioned to Scranton earlier in the weekend. So, roster is taking shape. The Yankees have a 5th starter. Guys know where they're going, or where at least they're starting the season. Who's not starting the season? Maybe DJ LeMahieu. He probably won't be ready for opening day. Aaron Boone calls him a long shot. He said, quote, DJ is still not there. He did some things today, but is still pretty sore and dealing with it. He's probably a little more of a long shot for opening day, but we'll see. As days go off the calendar, it just depends on how he improves every day. So yeah, he did some work. He was doing some jogging work, but bone bruise is a bone bruise, and it doesn't feel good because your foot is not very, your foot is pretty bony. And yeah, that probably really doesn't feel well. And they should just, I don't know at this point if they should put him on the IL or just have him miss the first few games, because maybe he'll be okay in a week. Maybe he'll just miss the first series. You never know. So there are options to play third base. It's not like they need to go out and sign anyone. But speaking of that, Gleyber Torres, I was going through my Instagram stories and noticed that he posted a picture of himself with Gio Urshela. They went out to dinner together on Saturday night because they're very close. And I know that Gleyber would probably love for the Yankees to get Gio Urshela to come over and play third in some way. He's with the Tigers right now. But I just thought I'd mention that. And I have one final thought before we end the show. Now, as much as I liked watching the game in Mexico and watching the fans react and all the noise, I thought the noise was great because I feel like U.S. games are so quiet and boring. And at least the fans in foreign countries are just constantly making noise and having fun because they just like to have fun at baseball games. But I was disappointed that the Yankees weren't close to full strength in Mexico. I get it. It's an exhibition game. But I don't know. I feel like maybe they should make this an every year thing, or not every year. Maybe they switch it out with Korea and Japan and do like a Korea, Japan, Mexico round robin kind of thing. So every few years, teams open up the season in those 3 places. And then the team can go full strength, play an exhibition game against the teams in the countries, so Mexico, and then play against whatever other MLB team MLB schedules them against in Mexico, and just make it a whole thing, because that was slightly disappointing. And it had to be disappointing also for the people in Mexico if they root for the Yankees and they don't see Aaron Judge. Like, sure, they saw Giancarlo Stanton, they saw Anthony Volpe, they saw Jose Trevino and Oswaldo Cabrera, Jonathan Loaizaga, but other than that, a lot of these guys, they didn't know who these guys were. And they were still excited, though. Like I said, they were making a lot of noise and cheering and just, I thought it was so great that there were a couple of foul balls hit pretty far, too. Like, just missed home runs that were like maybe, 10 feet past the foul pole that the fans were really excited to get. And I thought that was really cool. But yeah, no, I feel like they should do that where because we had spoken about that on the show, like what places we would like to see open the season, or even just have like maybe in the middle of the season, like what they do with the London series, maybe have other places besides London that they do that in. And maybe Mexico can be one of them, but maybe Mexico, I don't know. I don't know if Mexico in the middle of the summer would be good because it'll be as hot as it is in other places in the summer. So maybe they do Mexico preseason like they do Japan and Korea. I don't know, but I feel like Japan and Korea could be something in the middle of the season too. They would just have to, well, no, maybe not, because the travel's bad. We got to think this. Let's think this through. Tell me below where you think they should play. And if you were also disappointed that the Yankees, because I really like, man, maybe if Aaron Judge wasn't hurt, And maybe, if he wasn't building up for opening day, maybe he could have been there in Mexico City, because could you imagine Aaron Judge hitting home runs in Mexico City? It's 7,400 feet above sea level. Balls would be flying 600 feet off his bat if he was there. I don't know. I was just slightly disappointed. But speaking of opening the regular season, it was leaked on Sunday that for 2025, the Dodgers and the Cubs will be opening the regular season in Japan. Now, considering what's going on with Shohei Ohtani right now, that's interesting. Also, if you're watching this on Monday, depending on when you're watching this on Monday, he will have spoken to the media already about this. He was planning on doing that on Monday. So if you're watching this on Monday, he probably has spoken to the media already. But if you're watching this early on Monday, he hasn't done that yet. So maybe we'll find out what's going on with that, because that's still a very strange thing, really. So again, let me know where you think MLB should have more series in foreign countries, where you think they should open the season, and if you were as disappointed as I was that there weren't more regulars in Mexico City. Because when they first announced it, my first thought was, oh my God, Stanton and Judge and Soto hitting, home runs and just battering the ball. And it didn't happen that way. So it was slightly a bummer. One more time, don't forget, join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. There's a link in the description below and a 14-day free trial. You get texts from me. You can text me questions. And speaking of that, for Fan Mail Friday, leave your questions under the pinned comment below on YouTube. But if you're in the Insiders Club, you get top priority. But as I always say, if you ask me questions on YouTube, I'll still read them. I love you all. You know that. So coming up this week, opening day, we'll talk about the roster as it takes its final shape, and we'll talk about that rotation. We'll get a little more in-depth into the rotation and much, much more. But yeah, Thursday, it's almost here. Opening day. Get excited. So that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.